All right, today we're going to work on how to cover a cake in fondant. I kneaded this just a little bit and then want to make sure that I have plenty of surface space available and plenty of powder. And my powder is 50-50, half cornstarch and half powdered sugar. Keep moving the dough. Keep turning. Okay, if you have to step away for any amount of time, cover your fondant with saran wrap until you can come back to it. I had to step away for a second and I wanted to make sure this doesn't dry out, so I covered it with saran wrap while I was doing other things. Nice and smooth. Okay, we'll fold this over for just a second. We have our cake right here. Okay. Take your time. Most important thing is getting making sure that your skirt or fondant is rolled out big enough to cover the cake, because then if it's not, then we'll start trying to make up for missed spots or gaps, and that's when we start to get in trouble with how it looks. So take your time. Make sure it's big enough. Keep pulling. You don't have to accept a crease, just keep pulling and stretch until you get what you need. Okay. I think we can cut some of the fondant. Don't get too close to it just yet. Start out a little wide, just to make sure that, you know, you are able to finish all the way around before you cut too close and then, you know, can't change it. Okay, and this is nice and clean and able to be, you know, used on another project. So we need to put this back in plastic to make sure that it doesn't dry out. Okay. Now I'm going to just put a little bit of the 50/50 powder on here because I don't want it to stick. Oops, sorry. Okay, now I think we're okay to cut a little closer. Okay, before I cut the rest of that fondant off, I'm going to put this onto a working plate. Okay, before I cut the rest of that fondant off, I'm going to move this to my working plate. That is right here. Okay, and now just going to take a look around the cake. Just make sure that we're to the bottom of the cake board, you know, just to make sure that that is covered. Okay, if you let it get sticky at all, then what'll happen is the fondant will, you know, kind of mess up because it'll rub. So while you're smoothing it out and making sure that everything looks good, make sure that, you know, your pad, your spatula is nice and dry to avoid it from sticking. You know, the frosting layer inside the cake will be on another tutorial, but that's a huge piece too, you know, to how the fondant layer is going to look. I like to make sure that the top, you know, looks crisp and, you know, kind of clean on the edges. So pressing, you know, pressing like this to the edges, just kind of make sure that, you know, you have a nice clean edge. And this was a box cake. You know, I do a lot of from scratch recipes, but every now and then I need to use a box cake. I have a, you know, I'm in a hurry, got things going on, you know, just like everybody else. So You know, a box cake can look just as beautiful decorated. I did hack it a little bit by, you know, adding butter and vanilla and flour. You know, I adjusted the recipe a little bit. I'm going to trim along. I can feel where the cake board is, so I want to make sure, you know, that we don't have that exposed. So, you know, take your time, you know, go slow. If you have to go around the cake and do another layer, that's okay. Most important is that you got a clean look. Okay. Now I think that instead of using the cutter, I'm going to go through with the scissors just for some of this that I want to keep a good control of. I can't see as good with the roller. Okay. Take your time. You don't want to cut too much. Now this looks like it's got, you know, a little ridge down here. I don't like it. I'll come back to that, fix it. Little tiny bits at a time. A little too much over here. Okay, we can start the decorating. Okay, so we want to make a border for the cake. So I needed some fondant with a little bit of pink, and so we have a nice color that I think would be a good border. And the best way to do this is to, you know, roll it into a tube before we can get it into, you know, a roll around the cake. So I'm going to work this. Keeping it as even as possible. Move the cake out of the way for right now. That's a small cake. This is an 8-inch cake, so I don't want, you know, the band around the bottom to be too big or too wide. So I'm going to cut it there. Okay, I have a ruler here so that I can get this cut right. And I recommend this yardstick ruler from Home Depot. I think it's, I don't know, $1 or something like that, but don't press down too hard. You don't want to make any indentations onto your ribbon. Oops. Okay. And we'll cut off the ends after you get it on the cake. We want to get it wrapped before we cut any more. Okay, so I'm going to put some glue just along the bottom where the ribbon's going to go. Not too high, you don't want the water showing. Alright, let's get this on here. Uh-oh. I like to push it up against the cake. I don't want it like sticking out. And don't worry about the connection piece because we're going to put a flower there. Okay. get our spots that we don't want seen first. Kind of measuring where the flowers can go. Get an eyeball idea. Doesn't have to be perfect, just as perfect as you can get it. Okay. Now I like clean and simple, so I made this rose, which was in another tutorial, so this one can go right in the middle, or this one, which I've had drying, can also go right in the middle. But I think I want to stay with the pink, so I'm going to put this one in the center. And now don't try and do it yourself, just use, you know, pliers to, you know, kind of put the cake in there, or put the flower in there. And then now you could add a few more. I have here some other flowers, which, you know, I can cut and clip and put those in. But honestly, I think simple and clean and easy is best.